Well, good morning and welcome back to our living room in Bromley Common for our little Lent reflections. Yesterday, Richard shared the prayer of Thomas Merton, expressing that faith, even if we don't quite know where we're going, it is the obedience of going that matters. The Celtic saints had a word for this, peregrinato, one who wanders simply for the love of God. These Celtic saints, they left home, family, tribe, land, and they just went to wherever God led them. And as they went, they travelled light, they didn't take much. They often walked barefoot. It's said of St. Aidan that when he was offered a horse by King Oswald, he gave it away to a beggar. He preferred to be down with the people, walking along the dusty roads with the people. And it's these Celtic saints, these travellers who ventured out, who brought the Christian faith to the whole of Britain. If we look at some of the place names on a map, we can catch glimpses of how far they travelled. Samson, or Sannon, or Senon, as he is sometimes called, probably the same person. We find his name cropping up in Ireland, where he was born, but also throughout Wales in Argoed and Bedwellty, and then in France, where he established a church, and then back in Ireland again. Others travelled even further distances. Llantwit Vardar, or Llantwit Major, is a site in South Wales, which is the site of the earliest seat of learning in Europe, if not the world. It was founded round about 395, and then after being destroyed, it was refounded by St. Illtyd in the early 5th century and was a major centre of learning. It's reported that even St. David of Wales learnt at Llantwit Vardar. And these monks who trained there then went throughout Europe, bringing the gospel message. Often these Celtic saints travelled without any real objective as to where they were going. They just trusted that the Holy Spirit would lead them. One such was St. Piran, who arrived in Cornwall supposedly on a leaf, more probably a coracle. But St. Piran brought the gospel message to Cornwall and is remembered in Perranporth and as the national saint of Cornwall. Perhaps the most famous of these travelling Celtic saints was St. Brendan the Navigator. Brendan, with a group of 12 monks, set sail. They didn't know where to. They had a vague idea that there was an island of paradise. And in a 3-year voyage, they went out on the seas to seek that island, being drawn by God's Spirit. Some scholars think they actually made it to Northern America, which is hardly surprising considering that we know that the Vikings did make a settlement in Newfoundland. I found these words of the late David Adam both challenging and encouraging as he examined the life of St. Brendan. He said, "Life is meant to be an adventure. When we cease to reach out and stretch ourselves, something in us dies or we feel frustrated. For life to be lived to the full, it has to be adventurous. I believe that God calls us to adventure, to extend ourselves, and to seek new horizons. Our God is the God who makes all things new, and he wants us to walk in newness of life. Whenever life gets static or dull, God calls us out to risk and to be renewed. And T.S. Eliot echoed this sentiment when he said in Four Quartets, "Old men ought to be explorers. Here and there does not matter. We must be still and still moving into another intensity for a further union, a deeper communion, through the dark, cold, and the empty desolation, the wave cry, the wind cry, the vast waters of the petrel and porpoise." I think he must have been thinking about Brendan's voyage on the seas. But sometimes our journey seems too hard, the seas seem too rough. And then I love this prayer of the Breton fisherman: "Lord, the sea is so vast and my boat is so small." Enough said. Be blessed in your journeying, and we'll see you tomorrow. God bless.